All right, our third topic this week. Recently, I guess the NBA draft at the end of June, Bronny James, son of LeBron James, was drafted by the Los Angeles Lakers. And LeBron James, one of the greatest basketball players of all time, plays for the Los Angeles Lakers. Yeah, and this will be the first time in NBA history where a son will play with their father. It's happened in other sports. I know the Griffeys, Ken Griffey and Ken Griffey Jr. did this a while back. But just in general basketball, this will be a first. But there's been a lot of reaction about this. Say it was a second-round draft pick. And then ultimately signed a rookie minimum contract for a few years. And there's been a lot of discussion, a lot of people reacting to this, and some saying, "Oh, it's not fair," and being really upset about it, and others saying it's not a big deal or whatever. So I want to throw it to you, man. Are you offended, or what did you think about the idea of Bronny James getting drafted? And this is, I should mention, despite the fact that he didn't have he only played 1 year in college, and it wasn't a particularly a good year. He also had a medical issue last summer, but he did overcome that, and that's not supposed to be an issue anymore. So, what are your thoughts on the charges of nepotism? And is this something you should be offended by, or what's your thoughts on this, man, and the outrage?
Well, I think it would have been more controversial if he drafted Caitlin Clark. And so I just said that for the algorithm since she's so popular. No, on a serious note, it's interesting. I think, myself, I'm a father, so I think it's cool, that he got, he's that from LeBron James standpoint, that he's been able to hang in there and stay healthy enough to have a long enough career that he has the ability to even think about playing with his son in a sport like basketball. Like you said, baseball, the body tends to go a little bit longer than basketball and football. So I think that's cool. And the fact that his son is good enough to even entertain the conversation is all good. And I think, obviously, if this was not LeBron James' son and he didn't play a full one season of college basketball and he's 19 years old, would he have gotten drafted? I don't know. Probably not this kid. There's other 19-year-olds that have been drafted and kids younger drafted out of high school.
And some that haven't played full years of college too, so that's what I mean. So, and he got, he looks like he got paid what the kind of league has in their regular stuff for a rookie. So I'm kind of no opinion of it in a positive or negative way. But I do see, I can recognize how some people could look at it as nepotism and, have an issue with it. But I just think that, that's more of what we see in today's world and just the way people consume information that they want to complain about. I think it is more of what we see in today's world. But what it is that the more you know about basketball and the way the NBA works, the more bothered you'll be by it. Or excuse me, the less bothered. Let me say that again. The more you know about the NBA and how things work in the NBA and basketball, the less bothered you will be by the idea of LeBron James Jr., Bronny James getting drafted in the second round and pick 55 of the NBA draft. The reason being is that second round picks, that's not a high hit rate, one. So it's not like if he was a top 10 pick or top 15 pick or something like that, and it's like, okay, yeah, those are supposed to be guys that come in, and most of those guys, make the teams, play on the teams and all that. And, when you're looking at the top 15 picks or so, you go 5 years down the road, 75 of them are still in the league and playing, 75%, excuse me. When you're talking about second round picks, 20% of them 5 years later are in the league. 80% are out of the league. So second round picks are a low hit anyway. Those are, for, in many respects, flyers. A lot of second round picks, some of them never even play in the league, So, and Bronny James, what he has going for him, the reasons why this would not be something out of the ordinary is he was a high school recruit. He was considered a high level high school recruit. High level high school recruits, NBA teams take flyers on them all the time, whether or not they had a good college season, because they're like, oh, well, this guy was rated highly coming out of high school. Maybe he might be, somebody we can develop in the league. And so they take a low value draft pick, relatively, something that maybe has a 20% hit rate, and they draft somebody who was a high level high school recruit. And so to me, the only reason why this is a story is because it's LeBron James Jr., because it's Bronny James. And people are like all the other picks in the 50s of this draft, there are some that are never going to play in the NBA. But nobody's upset about that. Nobody's saying, oh, how could you draft this person? And, they if they don't make it in the NBA, I'm going to really rub it in your face. And it's like, because nobody cares. Nobody knows about, NBA players that are drafted in the second round. There's generally not a lot of hoopla about that. And so the only reason why we know about this, and the only reason why people care, is because
it's Bronny James. It's LeBron James Jr. And it's really just something. It's unfortunate, I think, for the kid. Like yeah, as a father, I'm happy for the dad, but for the kid, I'm like, oh man, he's had to live under the shadow his whole life. And now, even when he goes to the NBA, the discussion isn't, hey, you made it to the NBA. The discussion is, oh, you're just LeBron James Jr. and yada yada yada. So he can't escape it. And so but I mean, that's also like there are pros and cons to that. And would he have been drafted if his name wasn't LeBron James Jr.? We don't know, but that's kind of the point. And so anybody out here speaking definitively about that is, just like upset mainly because it involves LeBron James and LeBron James Jr.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said, it's sad. I already read something where, the kid, Bronny James, was talking about all the criticism he's received online. Yeah. And, look, I'm not here to feel sorry for anybody, but I was just thinking like, this kid's 19 and he can't control that he was born into, to his mom and dad, and that his dad became, one of the greatest players in history and famous. And so, yeah, I think it's, again, kind of like we said in the first part by the presidential debate, like, all these kind of things, I think, not all of them, but a lot of these things that we're seeing in our media and how people are reacting, especially online, becomes kind of like an avatar. It's like a mirror for our society. And I think, again, it's just, I don't know if there's that many miserable people that don't have anything else to do except, want to criticize constantly LeBron James and anything connected to him or whatever. But, I like you said, I understand basketball very well in terms of just the mechanics of the sport and the business side of it from, the NBA and the league perspective. So, like you said, had he been picked at number 3, you could be like, then okay, this is a little bit, but to be picked at 55. No, and
then the Lakers had, for example, the 17th pick in the draft. If they would have picked him 17th overall,
you could have said that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's a good point, that wasn't even their first pick in this year's draft that they picked him with. And so, and the fact that they've announced that he's going to spend a majority of this season in the G League. He's not even going to be on the roster. And, and they said it. He'll probably play with his dad in 1 or 2 games early, like in the first week. That's what they're planning, just as a symbolic so that they can give LeBron his win, that he can play with his son on the court. And then they'll kick the kid out to the G League and say, you got to prove yourself.
Yeah.
And that's it. And we'll either see him again on an NBA court or we won't. That's the way I look at it. Well, but you know what? That doesn't change the fact he's LeBron James' kid and always will be. So
that's again,
I think there's a lot of haters just because of that.
Of course, and that's really what drives this, because part of the NBA, because players come into the NBA oftentimes, like right now, you have to be, I think, 1 year out of high school if you're from the United States, 1 year out of high school. So whether you spend that 1 year in college or you spend it overseas or whatever, just 1 year, your high school class would have had to have graduated at least 1 year before. And so because of that, though, so much of the NBA is about projection for these people anyway, because these 19, 20-year-olds most of them aren't ready to play in the NBA anyway, or at least be meaningful contributors. So again, the idea that he's going to go and then spend most of the time in the developmental league, which is kind of like a AAA type of thing, a minor league, but it's one that's affiliated, that's connected to the NBA, and one that he's going to play on, one that's connected to the Los Angeles Lakers, he's 19 years old. He needs to go get reps, and he's not going to get those reps playing in the big league, like many second round picks. And honestly, like the trend is many first round picks now, younger ones, especially, go down and play in the what's called the G League, the developmental league for the NBA. And so again, all of that is pretty normal. If this guy's name was Tunde Ogunlana Jr., then we would not be talking about it. And all of the people that are outraged about it they wouldn't be saying it. They wouldn't have been on their radar, because nobody else is talking about nobody's talking about the 54th pick or the 53rd pick or anything like that.
I'd be talking about it though if it was Tunde Ogunlana Jr.
We would be doing a show on it if his name was Tunde Ogunlana Jr.
I'd say, hold on, my son just got a $7.9 million contract. Hold on, okay. Well, no, I'm moving in with you, son.
So if he was Tunde Ogunlana Jr., we'd be the only show talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. But I'd be talking about it for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure.
No one would want to listen, but I'd be talking about
it. So, but the idea of celebrity, though.
Hold on, I'm gonna make sure my 2 sons see this video.
There you go.
Well, the older one, I'll ask him why the hell you're not in the NBA, and the younger one, I'll tell him this is what you got.
This is how you get on the show.
The younger one's only 13, so he's got a few years he can figure it out.
But the celebrity,
he's got to start playing basketball, though.
You mentioned how he's 19 years old and has to deal with this, obviously because of who his father is. And I think that's an interesting thing in our society in general. Like, as 19, I mean, I don't think that's past the point where I'm going to be like, oh, poor. Like when he's had to deal with stuff when he's 13 or 14 or whatever, and that when they're that age, then I think it's a different thing. At this point, he's our society, for all things except drinking alcohol, I guess we consider him a man. And so that comes with the territory. I'm sure he's used to it. And, LeBron James seems like an involved dad and somebody who, his kids are around a lot, and so I'm sure that he has received guidance as far as dealing with that stuff. And he's been able to grow and learn in that. But I think that's kind of part of the game we play now. And, honestly, that gives him more opportunities than somebody who's obscure. So that's kind of the gift and curse in our society of celebrity, is that you have opportunities. You'll have opportunities for endorsements. You'll have opportunities to commercialize your notoriety, but you'll have to deal with people from the cheap seats throwing tomatoes at you, and that's kind of that's the give and take that we see that he has to deal with, not necessarily because of his own exploits at this point in his life, but because of his dad's exploits and because he's entering a similar industry. And, that's just kind of part of it. We see with politicians' kids, we see that with Obama's kids, or with, we've seen, things talking about with Barron Trump, or, whatever. And it's like how society deals with them. I think there is a line of demarcation, though, when you're talking, underage, I think there should be a pretty strong line of demarcation. But once they become adults, if they want to take professions that are publicly facing, like a professional basketball player or whatever it would be, then, that's, I guess you're kind of signing up for that in a way that's not necessarily fair, but in a way is, because you have benefits from that, and then you have costs from that. And to get the benefits, to pay the costs, you want the perks, you got to pay the cost. And that's kind of the cost in that sense.
Pay the cost to be the boss. But just as we get out of here, I just want to say this as we're talking, I just want to say it to say it. LeBron James, I'll say this, senior is, I don't know him personally, and I don't know about him. I don't hear rumors about him.
Other than what we see publicly, basically.
Yeah, other than what I see publicly. But I can say this: look, this guy has been famous since he was in high school on the national stage he was the best basketball player in high school at 16, 17.
Cover of magazines.
His games were being nationally televised on ESPN. I remember.
Yep.
And then he went to the NBA at 18, and here he'll be 40 in December. And, he's a great example, like you said, of someone who appears to be a very present parent. He's married to the same girl he was dating from high school. We never heard about him. Again, I don't know him, but we never seen out there in the media that he's been out there cheating on his wife or doing drugs or drinking and having these negative things. And then he's, obviously has raised his kids well enough that one of them is now an NBA player, and seems like a nice kid. Like, these kids aren't arrogant. They're not out there in social media getting in trouble on the news and all that. Yeah. And I just want to say, because so many people throw so much shade to LeBron. And, this is another example where our society, again, based on who people are, just kind of, people can look at people and make an assumption. Yeah. And I think once LeBron James put his thumb on the scale a bit during the last decade and up through the BLM summer of 2020 from the culture stuff, there's a lot of people that turned really negative on LeBron. And, as we're talking, I'm just realizing, man, here's a guy that had the spotlight on him. He's going to be 40 since he was, the majority of his life. And he seems to have done the right thing. Yeah. And he's getting rewarded for it. He's being paid very well. And so I just want to give the guy props for that. As a father and as a business guy and all that stuff, And
a professional. I think it's pretty amazing the way you lay that out. A public figure since your teen years and among the most famous people in the world, and being able to do so, to walk a path basically that doesn't leave much from a real kind of scenario. Like, oh, you quibble with, I don't like the way he made this decision or he did this on television, but it's like, but nothing like serious issues. Like, as far as the way somebody would live their life from a publicly facing standpoint, like, the dude has been, on point the whole time. And that's pretty amazing when you think about it, because, like, especially when you're young, like, once you get to be a certain age, it's like, okay, yeah, you kind of settle down and everything like that. But 18, 19, 20, 21, like, those are the times when everybody screws up. And it's like, this guy had to be on point the whole time and was able to pull it off. And it's quite amazing. I mean, yeah, I think you're right that, like, that shouldn't be glossed over. That should be something that's acknowledged, and, give the guy credit, give the guy props. Like, yeah, that's not easy. And it's very impressive that he's been able to maintain the level of kind of, public facing and public facing, like, stand-upness, stand-up guy. And then also from the professional success, and had the, personally, you know, like with his family and everything like that. All that stuff's been in the public, and he's been able to keep all that stuff moving and keep it, you know, above board in a way that is commendable, you know, again, from what we see. Which again, as a public figure, what we see, you know, we see a lot of negative stuff from a lot of people, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we can wrap the show from there. We appreciate everyone for joining us on this episode of Call Like I See It. Subscribe to the podcast, rate it, review it, tell us what you think, send it to a friend. Until next time, I'm James Keys.
I'm Tunde Ogunlana, Senior.
All right. We'll talk to you next time.